Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. If you would like to support the Sorcerers Guild, you can do so by purchasing merchandise available in the link above. Okay, so today on Experimental Magic, we are going to be beginning a new experiment. I mentioned before that I had some gourds. In fact, they have been in several other videos. We have the Sumwunzabin laughing at the dough, and the Hope Grows in the Garden projects, which are actually hybrid gourds that appeared in my garden, and we are on the third generation now. So we had some Sumwunzabin generation, the Hope generation, and then from those seeds, we now have the newest generation, which we are going to be growing up from a gourd by putting a mask. Well, let me get one of the masks. We'll get into the gourds here in a moment. So I'm using these masks here, just your basic mask, and rather than coming up with a name for the being now, I'm going to be putting the minion sigil on the front of the mask and wrapping it around the gourd and allowing the being to be birthed into the mask. And then at the end of the season, when it has formed into the mask, I will name it when I pick the gourd. Now we're actually going to be trying two of these, both of which we will be putting the minion or altar sigil on the front of the mask, and then I will be playing them a bit of music to begin the process. Okay, so, like I said, the first thing we're going to do then is take both of these masks and put the minion sigil on them, which is the one for the yeast minions, many of my different projects, the servitor tanks. That sigil there. It's kind of hard for me to see the screen. Hopefully that's fairly legible to you. Of course, we're putting it on both of them. And we're going to be putting it on a few locations. Put it on the third eye of the mask, but also on both of the cheeks. Uh-oh. Let's see if I can wash that off of there. That's why it's a good thing I haven't charged the sigils yet. I just kind of messed that one up. I guess sometimes with anything, as you do it too many times, every once in a while you're going to do it wrong. Okay, so completed masks. And like I said, we will be tying these to the gourds, which you can't see from there. So now I'm going to need to bring you closer. There's going to be this gourd here, which is should wind up growing into more of a shape like this, nice and round, just judging from the other ones that have gotten larger already. And then there's this one here, and it should bow like it's like this one here and get quite large, hopefully. I don't know how well you can see that. It's kind of hard for me to film in here. So as you can see, the whole garden itself has gotten quite large. These squash have done really well. They're actually taking over the potatoes, and that's why I've decided it's time to switch to this project. I will have a few more updates on Odell, but it looks like the energy is kind of getting pulled away and into these gourds, which is a much more important project, because Odell is basically was seeing if we could, and he's helping me with my healing work. But I have progressed quite a bit from that. And so if this takes over, I'm just going to allow that to happen, because this is a much more significant project, as those of you who are following along with the Hope Grows in the Garden project will recall what I mean. Okay, so let's see how I can film me tying these up. Okay. Right. So here's this one. I think you're just going to get to see them with the masks on, and then I'm going to have to tie them up and come back to you, because I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I could film them. I don't know how I could film it. What I've got here is some green twine, or actually it's cotton string. It's technically yarn, but it's made of cotton, so I don't know if it really is yarn. It's 100% organic cotton. I felt it was important to use something like that for this project. Okay, so I'm going to take the gourds, wrap this string tight around the mask, and tie it tightly to the gourd. Well, not tightly. We want to allow some room for growth. Cut off the excess string and use that to tie the next one. Being very careful not to damage the vine behind. If you damage the vine, if you try to do something like this, if you damage the vine behind, of course, it's going to stop the fruit from growing and possibly kill it. And that would defeat the whole purpose of what you were doing. So, mindful of the vine. Okay, this one's giving me a little bit of trouble. Hold on. That first one, or the long one over there, worked out just fine. The smaller one, however, seemed to really resist the idea, and I don't want to force this, so we're gonna go with a different gourd. So there's that. There's the round gourded mask tied up onto the gourd. And there's the long gourd with the mask tied onto it. So now we'll set you back up over here again. And we'll get to the next step in this process, which is for me to play that flute right there. Okay, so now that I've placed the sigil 3 times on the face of each mask and wrap them around the gourd so that they can begin the gestation process into being born into the shape of the mask. Just to make that clear, part of what I'm hoping to create here is that by putting the mask around the gourd as it grows, it will grow into the mask and take on the face that is on the mask. And then when it's done, we should have gourds with faces on them, or at least masks grown into them. We'll see how that works out. But at the end of that time, I will then, as I said earlier, name them when I pick them. Okay, so the next part then is to charge those sigils and begin the growing process by playing my flute. I'm going to start out nice and slow. Not too forceful. But we're not going to stay that way. You want to encourage it to grow strongly. And with success, and in line with the will of the sigil. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm actually imagining my breath going down the flute, through the holes, out the end, and into the masks, and creating life within them. I'm imagining a little spirit in the center of each gourd, dancing to the music as I play, and growing into the mask. Now we're going to change the song a little. Now we're going to change it a lot. Okay, so now that I've played the spirit into the gourd, that will pretty much be it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. And until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.